We've got Stefan Verstappen with us, leading preparedness consultant, if you will. He's got numerous books. He's got a great website, China Strategies, and we're going to be kicking for the next 25 minutes a week. And listen, we are ready to go with Stefan Verstappen. And Stefan, thank you so much for joining the show. And yeah, how you been? How's lovely Commie Canada been? And you've got some areas here we're going to talk about today. Check route, USAR 2x2. What does that all mean? Well, Stefan will explain here over this program. Go ahead, Stefan.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me back on. I've been devoting the first 5 minutes of every one of my interviews to urging people to get together and work together. This is, I have my book coming out, and I have the course that's out now, The Complete Guide to Forming Communities. And the reason for that is, and I've been in touch with, independent, freedom-minded communities throughout the United States and throughout Canada now. I've been doing webinars with them, helping them get organized and answering their questions. And one of the common things I get from everybody is that they still find it hard to recruit members to work together. He said, what I get is that, maybe things have to get a little bit worse before people realize the necessity of forming, independent communities. And my reply is, how much worse does it have to get? Look at what the hell is going on around you. This is totalitarianism right now. This is tyranny in its worst form, and it's worldwide tyranny. At least when the Bolsheviks took over Russia, there were very few Russians that were quick enough and fortunate enough to escape to the West, were able to go somewhere where there was freedom. There is no escape for us, folks. There's nowhere to run to. Not Costa Rica, not South America, Mexico maybe for a little while. I know a lot of people that fled to Mexico, but for how much longer is it going to stay relatively untouched by this worldwide communist shutdown and takeover? So there's nowhere else to escape. The only way to escape is within your own communities. And people are, those that are forming communities and they're working hard at organizing their neighbors and their family and their friends to work together so that we can survive what's coming, they're having a hard time because people don't get it, that this is our only hope. And it is our only hope. Folks, there is no running away from this. There's nowhere in the world you can run and hide to get away from what is coming. The only way to survive it is to stand your ground where you are. And the only way you can stand your ground is if you have a community. And if you can't get a community, then at least get a team. 3 other people. 3 other people. That's all you need. Start with that. Start with 3 other people. Your brother-in-law, your brother, your sister, your aunts, your uncles. Try and get them on board to understand the kind of danger that we are facing right now and that we have to work together. And one of the simple things that I, was talking about last time on the show or in a previous interview with you, Eric, was the check-in club. And I told people, I said, look, you need to, this is the simplest thing to do, okay? Find 5, 6, 10 people that are isolated, that are alone, that, they live outside of town. Maybe they're elderly, maybe they're sick and they can't move around very much. Find them, call them twice a week, every week, just to see how they're doing. Just call them, check in on them. Now, I said that the other purpose for this check-in club is to check up on people like Eric. What if Eric disappears? What if at 3 o'clock in the morning, the black van comes with the FBI and whatever SWAT team and whatever military team, right? And they haul Eric and his family out into the van and they drive off into the night. And that's the last we ever hear of Trad Cat Night. No more podcasts, no more interviews. Boom, gone, off the web, out of sight, out of mind. Where's Eric? Who is going to check in on Eric and his family? Unless you have a check-in club. This is why we need to call each other, because people are disappearing. Oh, don't believe me? Am I a conspiracy theorist? Listen, We've been predicting this, Eric. You know that for at least 2 years. I've been predicting it for 20 years that this was all going to happen because I know communism. I see what the communists have done in the past, and I know that's their playbook. And I already realized more than 20 years ago that we are under a communist attack and that's what they're going to do. So look, oh, but you're a conspiracy theorist. You're being negative. You're being blackpilled. You're spreading fear porn. Okay, I've heard it all before. Fear porn, my butt. Take a look at Austria.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at Austria.
Yeah.
Oh, am I the conspiracy theorist? Oh, am I spreading fear porn? What about the real fear of the Austrian people? Look at Australia. Look at what's happening there. People are disappearing. The military is coming. They're taking them away. They're forcing them to take the Kool-Aid against their will. And then, did you see the most recent video from an Australian Aboriginal woman who's screaming? She doesn't know what's happened to her tribe. The military came, and suddenly they don't hear any more news from that reservation. And they don't know what happened to them. There's rumors they were rounded up, forcibly vaccinated, and moved to a, what do they call it in Australia? A health camp, right? They call it a healthy camp or something like that. And here in Canada, we have, quarantine camp. And there in the United States, you got the FEMA camp. When I was warning people about this 20 years ago, I called it the happy camp. You're going to go to the happy camp because it's so Orwellian. They just health camp, for Christ's sakes, And this Australian Aboriginal woman is screaming at the top of her lungs, what the hell happened to my people, my family? They've disappeared. This is what I've been telling you guys. We need to have a check-in club because people are going to start to disappear. I've predicted this for decades now, and now here it is. It's right in your face. Look at Austria. And, I've been to Austria, beautiful country, and wonderful people. I had the greatest time of my life in Austria. I climbed the mountains up there. I visited the Matterhorn. And if this can happen to them, this is not some third world banana republic where the police routinely disappear people. This is a civilized country with a constitution and with rule of law, or it was, and now they are sending out the military, no exceptions, no medical exception, no religious exception. Everybody's going to get the Kool-Aid, the death Kool-Aid, and you have no choice in the matter. So if it can happen to Austria, and if it can happen in Australia, how much longer do you think it's going to take before it happens in Canada and in the United States?
Yeah, no, it's right around the corner. Absolutely. Yeah, Austria is an interesting one because one of my guests is over there working on his PhD. And I remember, I don't know, about a year or so ago, him talking about how mild it was there and hardly any restrictions. And bang, he got put on lockdown very quickly. So I don't know. I think we've got to be right around the corner considering I don't know if you've seen what's happening here in the United States, but Biden had, for a brief period of time, handed over presidential power to Harris. A lot of my analysts are indicating Biden will probably tap out here soon due to him not being able to put two sentences together or whatnot. And if we get Harris, I mean, that'll be just full blown socialism. And I could see at that point people really taking to arms in the streets. But that's another interesting area too. Stefan, maybe we could talk about that for a minute. I'm not sure what the climate's like up by your neck of the woods, but here on the West Coast, there's all kinds of crazy looting happening. I mean, it was like the lead story on Drudge Report for like the last 2 or 3 days. People just walking into these upper scale Louis Vuitton stores or whatever and just getting in there and taking what they could and leaving, and the cops just doing nothing. And again, you take a look at these people, they're not wearing these types of clothes or whatnot, these upper end clothes. It's like, come on, really? They're selling it on the street probably the next day or whatnot. But it's literally devolving into just complete anarchy and chaos, which is what the New World Order wants. I mean, you and I are not surprised by this, but a lot, like I've been warning for nearly a decade, get out of major cities. And there's not a day that doesn't go by where there's some story in a major city like that, to which only kind of adds fuel to the fire for what I've been saying now for years. But I don't know, your thoughts in regards to the looting and the rioting. I mean, it's just going to be kind of common practice, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be common practice. I mean, of course, this is part of their. Oh my God, it's like, for me, somebody who's studied history and understands ruthless people and ruthless strategy and tactics. It's I'm bored. Okay. Oh, now release the criminals. I mean, it's classic. Release the Kraken. Release the criminals. This is a strategy that it goes way, way back. Even Sun Tzu talks about it. You take over a country, you release all the prisoners, and you send them over to the next country you want to conquer.
Mm-hmm.
So, suddenly hordes of refugees flood into your country and start looting and raping and murdering. Now, the government or the people, because the government doesn't do anything, so it's up to the people to try and protect themselves and deal with this absolute chaos that's been unleashed on them, and then they are vulnerable, and that's when you attack. Genghis Khan did the same thing when he conquered a city. Because, he was a scourge. He went all through Central Asia, all the way to Russia, as you know, even onto the borders of Poland, I believe, conquering and murdering hundreds of millions of people. But when he took over a city, he would take all the people, especially the criminals, march them up to the front line, and, herd them into the next city as refugees. Now, the people in the next city were hesitant to open fire on these people coming in as refugees because, a lot of them were cousins, just because you lived in the next city over, that didn't mean you weren't still kin. So a lot of them were racially identical, and they lived in the next city or the next province, and they were hesitant to attack them, and so they infiltrated them and caused the usual chaos. You can't help but cause chaos when you send hundreds of thousands of poor, hungry people into a country and expect that country to feed them and clothe them and educate them and provide their medical. This doesn't work for too long without weakening the country that's accepting all these refugees. Look what's happened to us here in the West. We've been inundated with refugees. And it has weakened us all and divided us all. And now we have, we're going to have balkanization there in the United States. Okay, there's going to be one part of Chicago that's ruled by the Crips, and there's going to be another part of Chicago that's ruled by the what do they call them? The Hispanic, whatever. The MS-13 or MMA. Mexican mafia.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't travel from one part of the city to the other without being looted or robbed or stopped by a gang and looted and robbed. That's what's going to happen. Which brings me to the point of 2x2. So for the listeners, Eric asked me, said, what will we talk about today? I said, we're going to talk about 2x2 and USAR. Now, USAR means, it's an acronym, and it stands for Urban Search and Rescue. And part of your community, when you form your community for your people, you need to have some of your members. I recommend that whoever you designate as part of your security committee or your security team or your neighborhood watch group, that they also learn some urban search and rescue techniques, because things can happen. And then, who's going to go check on neighbor Bob down the road, right? Well, that's your USAR team. They're going to go and check in on him. And we've seen this already here in Canada with the big floods in British Columbia. People are missing. Who's going to go look for them? They're waiting for the government and the military to come in. But listen, if you have your own community emergency response team, part of their duties is urban search and rescue, so that they can go and look and see what happened to those people. And if they're stuck on the roof of their house because of rising floodwaters, it's your USAR team that commandeers a canoe or a boat or an inflatable raft and goes and rescues them. You can't wait for the government. The government or the Red Cross or any of those phony organizations. Never donate to the Red Cross.
Right.
I have been in touch with community disaster response teams from all over the world. There's videos on my YouTube channel, and they will tell you very quite clearly that when they were flooded, the Red Cross was completely useless. The only people that came out and rescued people and fed people and provided medical help were the local community response teams. So, again, the reason why we need to form communities, folks, because if there is a natural disaster, guess who's going to save you? You have to save you. You and your buddies have to go around and, like I said, rescue those people. Now, there's a principle, there's a rule about USAR, and that is 2 by 2, which means usually USAR it goes to rescue people in infrastructure that has been damaged or destroyed, either through earthquake or through a hurricane, blew the houses down, the roofs off the houses, or tornadoes that came through and devastated the community, or floods. What happens is that you have a lot of damage to the infrastructure, collapsed buildings, collapsed roads, collapsed houses, and people are trapped in those buildings and houses. That's why USAR, Urban Search and Rescue, is slightly different than Wilderness Search and Rescue. Wilderness Search and Rescue, like the Rocky Mountain Rescue team, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Somebody's lost in the mountains. They're lost on the river. And so you send a team of people. They go up the trails. They call out. And they look for the people that are missing. And if they're injured, which often they are, then they provide first aid. And then they medevac them back to civilization. But urban search and rescue is a lot more tricky because you're dealing, with hazardous terrain. So, if I'm going to look for my lost buddy up on the mountain, yeah, we've got, all I got to do is make sure that I have enough food and water for myself and that I don't get lost, and then I can go find them. But in an urban environment, you have a lot of hazardous, and that's why this 2 by 2 comes in. So the rule is if you're going into a building or an area that has been washed out or, collapsed, whatever, you send 2 guys in and 2 guys stay outside. That's the meaning of 2 by 2. Now, you send 2 guys in because if, a wall collapses or a roof falls in or the floor rots out beneath you and one guy gets injured, he's got a buddy with him right there that can help him. But if both guys get injured, both guys fall through the floor, both guys get the roof collapsed in on them, you now have 2 guys outside that can go in and rescue the rescuers. Now, this 2 by 2 strategy works in a number of other different ways. If you have to go through a dangerous area, let's say you want to go Christmas shopping on the Golden Mile in Chicago, well, you're taking your life in your hands. This is where a lot of this looting is going on. I know a guy that just fled from Chicago. He went to North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And he said that he got mugged almost every day on the public transportation system. Jeez. You can't walk down the Golden Mile in Chicago without fear and risk of being mugged. So, but let's say that's where you're going. So you got to use the 2 by 2 strategy again. And this is why I tell people you got to have a team, minimum 4 people. Please find 4 people to work together and then think ruthless, okay? Think about, because a 4-man team is a squad. It's like a squad in the military, and it's the most effective fighting unit that the military has. It's small enough that it can get in and out quickly, doesn't require a lot of logistics to move around. You can move them in one car, and they're usually the most effective fighting unit in the military. So you need to create your own fighting unit, 4 people. And now, if you have to go into town, you use the 2 by 2. You don't walk together as a group of 4. You send 2 people up ahead, 50 yards ahead of you, and the other two people stand back and follow them. Now, the reason for this is if there are people waiting to ambush you, waiting to rob you, waiting to murder you, the first two people will encounter them, right? So you got two guys walking down the street in Chicago. They round the corner, and suddenly they're surrounded by 15, what I like to call them is diversity angels. So they're surrounded by 15 diversity angels. Now, the diversity angels will be focusing all their attention on the two guys that they've ambushed. And therefore, they won't see the other two guys that are going to be coming up behind them with baseball bats and telescopic batons and firearms and tasers and pepper spray, and then they will be caught by surprise. Now, in combat, in battle, in war, the element of surprise always works as a force multiplier 3-to-1. In other words, one person, if he had the element of surprise and he was a trained fighter, like yours truly, if he was a ruthless, cunning son of a bitch, like your speaker, then you could take out 3 guys with the element of surprise. It's very simple. You know, there's 3 guys sitting there at a table. I come up behind them, and I take a whiskey bottle to the back of the head of the first guy. The second guy turns around, and I stomp him in the face. And then the third guy finally looks up from his drink, and I hit him with another whiskey bottle. That's what I mean. One person can take out 3 people with the element of surprise. So if you have to travel through a dangerous neighborhood, don't go in a group. 2 guys ahead, 2 guys behind. Because if the 2 guys ahead get jumped, then the 2 guys behind will have the element of surprise, and they will have the force factor of 6 people. Now, whoever is trying to mug the first 2 guys, they're going to get caught by surprise. They're going to have to turn around and deal with the new threat that suddenly came up to them. Now the 2 guys that they tried to mug is going to turn around and attack them as well, and they're caught in a pincer movement. I'm telling you, this is street strategy, street gang strategies, okay? And if you want to be safe, learn how to use this. I have done this myself. I used to, and even if you don't have 4 guys, if it's just 2 of you, same thing. One guy walks ahead and the other guy walks behind. I did this in Taiwan. I walked behind. I could see if anybody was going to, jump my friend, then I would be up behind them so fast they wouldn't see it coming because their attention is distracted on their prey. And I'll come up behind, and I've got some weapons, like a weighted chain or a sai or telescopic baton. Bam, bam, bam. I can hit 3 guys from behind, over the back of the head. Well, I would hit them behind the neck. That would, hitting them on the head would just split the skull, cause a lot of bleeding. But the best thing is just to hit them right at the base of the neck with a karate chop or with a baseball bat. They'll go down instantly. Or with your taser, if you got one of those tasers, hit them right at the base of the skull. So I can come up behind and I can cause enough damage that me and my buddy could run and escape. That's what I'm saying. So that's USAR, Urban Search and Rescue. You need to learn some of those techniques, form a community. How many times do I have to say it? Get together with people, form a community and train, at least read up on it and go through some, rehearsals, some reenactments, because that will save your life. But same for, searching for your family members that are missing or under a collapsed building or that are hiding out in the forest that's on fire. I mean, this is why we do this, because the government won't be there in time. Nobody's going to be there in time. It's like the police. Yeah. The police is only there to tag the dead bodies and take statements, but the police never prevent murder, never prevent a mugging. Police don't do that. And so we have to do that for ourselves. So that's Urban Search and Rescue. You need to, if you live in a city or in an urban environment, learn some of these techniques. Some of it's in my book, The Art of Urban Survival. Some basic techniques are in there, how to read the signs, how to go in, how to, crib a building if it's falling down, things like that. Exactly what it says. You look for somebody and you rescue them. And the people you're looking for are your church members, your fellow parishioners, your family, your friends, the people in your community that you worked with, but also use that same strategy 2 by 2 whenever you have to go through a dangerous neighborhood or whenever you have to go travel and you're not sure what, listen, same thing if you're driving in a car, 2 people in the front car, 2 people in the back car. Now, if the front car suddenly gets pulled over by a military roadblock, then the people in the back car pull over to the side of the road, get out your binoculars, see what the hell is going on, get on the radio, call your people. If you see that the military roadblock is hauling people out of the car and taking them off to the happy camp, then call your lawyers, call your people, go and protest, go to the police station, make as big an uproar as possible. We talked about this before, right? The further you get processed into a death camp pipeline, the less chance you have of escaping. So as soon as you go missing, and again, the purpose of the check-in club, you got to know when people go missing, and then you got to act right away. Get the lawyers, get the people, get the bullhorns, phone the media, get the cameras out, go to the police station, go to the holding centers, make a big bunch of noise. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, and that's enough. Trust me. Yeah, a lot there, a lot of meat to chew upon on this podcast with Stefan Verstappen. Anything else we could add on the shameless self-promotion front before we let you go, Stefan?
Go to my website. I got another website. I'm updating it, and it's a little bit rough right now, but go there anyways. Mm-hmm. Forming Communities, one word, formingcommunities.com, and you'll learn about the course that I have and about the upcoming book, and I'm posting excerpts from the book, and I got to post some more excerpts, and learn how to create a community, because if you want to live, that's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yeah, good stuff. There you have it, the latest from Stefan Verstappen. Folks, we got to get ready for Gil Broussard now and all the latest Earth changes. I know we'll break down some current events economically, socially, politically. Until next time, stay safe and God bless.